Okay, so hello everyone. I repeat, I'm Dave, and as you see by this photo, I've been interested in computers for a long time. But one of my other really big passions in my life is riding bikes. So yeah, as you can see, I've been on lots of trips. I love it. I love riding my bikes with my friends or alone. I can recommend it, but that's not what this talk is about, unless you want it to be. So this talk is actually about a bike trip I did 2 years ago now that inspired me to build a tool to satisfy my own curiosity. So the story starts here. It was another conference. It wasn't as cool as an OpenStreetMaps conference. So it was hosted by the people at Carto, and it was in London in the Royal Geographical Society. So really interesting building, a lot of history, a lot of cool maps there. And you can see here, this is me with my friend Pooja, or my colleague at the time, and I even made it onto the highlight reel. But again, so that's not what this story is about. This is just the start. So the conference was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in Germany. I should have said I'm based in Berlin. So the Friday was a holiday in Germany, and that meant that I had 3 days, and I set myself the challenge that I would ride my bike back. And now because of the tools we had at the time, it was very, very quick to plan. It took me like 3 minutes. So I used Komoot to plan my tour. I set the start location to be the place I was in London, the end point, my house in Berlin. And then I set 2 intermediate points, which were the ferry port in Harwich and the Hook of Holland. And yeah, so that was it. The conference was wrapping up on Thursday, and around 4 p.m. I left. I got my bike from my hotel, and I cable tied my phone to the handlebar, and then I just went and pressed go, and I started. And so riding out of London was really beautiful. It was London is a very hectic place, but as I was going out, I was kind of getting more into the countryside. It was getting a lot more peaceful. Here you can see I went through Colchester, I went through a big estate, and I took a picture of a road called True Love's Lane, because I thought that was cool. I made it to Harwich in time for my night ferry, and then the next day I woke up in Holland. So I kept on following the route that Komoot gave me, and some more photos. There was lots of small animals. I ate some pancakes. And then, the next couple of days, or Saturday and Sunday, I was riding through Germany. So these are some pictures from Germany. Lots of potatoes. This sign says Gegenwind. It means headwind. Quite ironic. There was a big headwind the whole time on this ride. I called up my friend and he just laughed at me, and he told me sometimes you have a wind against you and sometimes you don't. And I took a picture of the Romantikstrasse in Germany, which, it turns out that England and Germany have a lot in common. Okay, so on Sunday evening, I arrived in Berlin. I made it to the Brandenburg tour, and I managed to get to my desk the next day, and I started, and I didn't actually tell anyone. Pooja just asked me how I came back, and I told her it was on the bike, and she gave me a fist bump, and that was it. But that's not what this story is actually about. So I crossed lots of rivers. I was in the Netherlands, and I crossed lots of canals. And one question that came up was, how many waterways have I crossed? And what were they called? I don't know if I'm the only person with this question, but yeah, that's what's in my head when I ride bikes. So I realized a few things. One, I had a GPS data of the ride. I was recording it with Komoot, and that is stored as a GPX file. I had access to open data, and like most people here, I have some geospatial know-how. I have a background in it, so that gave me an idea. And the idea was to build a tool to answer this for myself. So I wanted something that would process recorded GPS data, calculate the waterways that I crossed, and visualize the results. Should be simple, right? Okay. Now the big question, what is a waterway? I don't think we have time to answer that. But here is a more pragmatic question. So where can I get geospatial data from, and how can I filter the waterways crossed on my route? This is something that we can answer. No surprise, I went to OpenStreetMap. So we are at an OpenStreetMap conference. I don't think I need to explain what OpenStreetMaps is, but I remember when I was first aware of it, I was like, okay, is this a map? And then it got deeper and deeper, and I realized it's a database, or maybe it's more than that. So this is just a picture I threw together to say there's lots of different parts to OpenStreetMaps. There's the wiki, there's the forum, but actually the community around it is the thing that holds it together. So back to the question, how do I get waterways? Luckily for me, there is a waterway tag, and it's not that disputed. I think everyone here knows how fuzzy some of the other tags can be, or how the culture of the place that you are in defines what you assign a tag to, or how you tag things. But luckily, a waterway, let's say a river, a stream, a canal, these are quite clear to people all over the world. So I went to the wiki and I saw, okay, we have different elements with them. And this here, I'm sure you all know this, but on the right of the wiki it says for this tag what kind of elements cover it. So you have nodes, ways, and relations here. The next question was, how would I get that data? So I turned to the Overpass API. I could have downloaded the planet data and then filtered it, but thankfully the Overpass API exists. So that was where I turned. Now, just to explain a little bit, and I know a lot of people know this already, this here is Overpass Turbo. It's a really nice GUI front-end website where you can put in a query that you would give to the Overpass API, and then you get results on a map. Now, I had to say, okay, Mr. Overpass, give me all of the waterways, which were of a way type and a relation type. And this here is just give me them within the bounding box. You see, there are a lot more ways than there are relations. And I think it's a common problem when you're actually working with OSM. It's how do you use that data model to solve my problem? So if you are interested in mapping waterways, I recommend to go to waterwaymap.org. There's a project by Amanda where she's kind of solved a problem. But for me, the relations were really easy to work with. They were already the big main rivers that I were interested in. But there were way more ways to deal with. So I did a very naive approach that I joined them all up when they touched each other, and I simply said if they have the same name, they are the same waterway. It works for most of my use cases, but it's not perfect. Okay, so then I sketched out the tool that I wanted to build. I wanted to have a website That's because I wanted to be able to upload my data from my phone when I was out to show my friends, hey, today we crossed this many rivers. I didn't want to sit behind my laptop all the time. I wanted to actually have a map, and I wanted to have an outdoorsy vector map style because I wanted to visualize the rivers that I was going over. We talked about I would fetch the waterways from the Overpass API, and I wanted to calculate the intersections in the browser, so I didn't need any backend, let's say, to do the heavy lifting. And then, show the journey and the waterways on a map again. Now, thankfully, this the ideas for this tool, it was very much a combination of putting together some great libraries out there. So MapLibre, I know Bart is somewhere at this conference, you can speak to him. They have a very good project which has been building on top of the great work from Mapbox. You have Turf and these other libraries. And I just glued them together. So I started. I spent one weekend trying to write the tool that I wanted. And I was really surprised by how quick I could do this. So my background, again, it's as a data engineer, geospatial data engineer doing back-end stuff. And this, I thought I would have to do a lot more work to get the actual bits working together. But it was surprisingly easy, so I was surprised. I had a version that answered my problem, and I was really happy with it. So the next thing, I said, okay, this is quite cool. Maybe some other people have the same question as me. And then I needed a name. I went for Kreuzungen.world. I don't know if anyone's German here, but Kreuzungen is the German word for intersections or crossings, and the .com was taken. I actually called the guy who had it. He didn't want to sell it. I thought .world was a good idea, but if I would do this again, I would not do that. Do not mix up a German word with an English, top-level domain. Anyway, I brought it, and you can't go back. So this was how it looked, this was how it looked. And then I thought, okay, let's improve it a little bit. So I did a few things. I added a loading indicator, so when people actually upload their route, they see some kind of feedback. They don't think it's broken, and then after half a second, close the page. I made the interactions less sensitive so that if you're using a phone or a touch device, you can actually press the individual rivers. I put drag and drop feature on there. I added a control to upload the GPX files. And then I put this tiny little share button down here and a button to get some information. So that was kind of it when it came to the site. But the next step, or before we talk about the next step, my takeaways at this point. So we are in a golden age of open source geospatial stuff, and it fits together really well. I don't think that being able to build this was because of I'm a great programmer. I think it's because of all of the effort which is put into the libraries, and they are all built on code which is built on other code, and we should appreciate that. I thought I would have to do a lot more mathsy programming. I really before thought, okay, I'm gonna have to somehow convert between GPX and GeoJSON, but again, that was solved. So a lot of my time was the other stuff, actually buying a domain, setting up DNS, and then it was a question of doing this UX so that it was, okay, it works, but let's actually make it that people can touch things properly. And another takeaway I had doing things in the browser is really fast, at least for the problem that I have here. So about this, let's talk about the performance. Now, when I calculate the waterways, what happens is you upload the route very naively. It just looks at the bounding box. It asks for all waterways from the Overpass API from that bounding box. And then they are loaded into a structure, and you use turf to do the line or this Boolean intersect function. It uses an algorithm which is quite fast. It's not order n squared, doesn't matter, it's quite fast, it's optimized. But the bigger the route is, the more rivers there are going to be, and the more places there are to check for intersections. So I have friends who do very big rides. They do 1,000-kilometer rides. They are not normal. But I said, okay, let's do something. Before we optimize this, before we think about how to make it much quicker, let's see what people are actually riding. So I went to Komoot and I see their distribution, and most people do rides which are 60 kilometers. I've actually seen this in my logs. So it's if people are doing a ride which is 100 kilometers in a diagonal line, on average, this in a browser on a bad phone is going to run within 2 seconds, which I think is fast enough. And with that information, I was, okay, I don't need to optimize it. It's a hobby project. I have recently optimized it. I have a blog post about making it much, much faster, but you don't need to. Okay. So maybe this is a weird photo here, but this is my mum. And why I'm showing you this, so my mum is not a geospatial specialist. I'm pretty sure everyone in here talks, or they know what a node away a relation is. They know somehow what a GPX file is, and I think some people, they can really go into what that means. That's not normal. That's not what the majority of people know. So my mum, she has no idea. She is a below average runner. I really love her. She said I could say this. She's an amazing human being. I'm very thankful to have her as a mum. But the takeaway about this photo, so she's the normal person. Yeah? And no offense to anyone here. You are also normal if you know what a GPX file is. But she represents just an average person on the street. And she uses Strava. So this is actually an activity she has on Strava. There's an interesting story behind this run. But so Strava, for people who don't know, it's kind of like LinkedIn for people who run. No, this is a joke. It's a place where you can record your sport activities. So you can record your bike route, like I did, your bike tour. You can record your run. They have many other categories, so canoeing, alpine skiing, and then you can upload it. And there's a lot of geospatial stuff going on in the background, which tells you these stats of how fast you were. There's leaderboards which compare you against others. But yeah, so my mum, she's not interested in any of the geospatial stuff. She just is happy that she can store her runs here. She can send a link to her son in Berlin, and I can give her a thumbs up. But what that meant for me is there are a lot of people who are storing GPX data somewhere. But they would not be able to use the site in this way because no disrespect, people do know how to do this, but it's asking something to download an activity called a GPX file, upload it to somewhere else. So I basically, with the thought of my mum, I added some integration. So Strava, they have an ecosystem. You can add a application there, and then you can put an OAuth thing. So now there's an orange button on the top. When people press that the first time, it says login with Strava, and they can authorize the site to use their data. Then if they press it again, they simply see a list of their activities. Okay, another nice thing about Strava is when people do give you permission to use their data, you can create a little webhook. You can create a subscription, and you can write a little webhook server on your side. So I put this up as a visual way to show these are some of my friends, and they agreed to use Kreuzungen. And if they give me the rights to do this, I will actually analyze. So they upload the activity to Strava. I get a little notification on my backend server, and then it will calculate the rivers, and it will send this message back to it. And that means now that my app, let's say, is incorporated into Strava, so that people, they don't have to go on the website, they get this information. And nice for me is that I can put a link here so that people would naturally find it through the network of Strava. Okay, so for me at that point, my hobby project was kind of done. And I said I signed up to speak at GeoMob in Berlin. And I got a response from Ed saying he was looking forward to my talk, but it is entirely unclear what he was looking at. Yeah, which, I mean, this is actually good feedback to have. So I thought about this, and I added some information. When people go to the site, it actually tells them a little bit, and I added some demo routes for people who don't actually have Strava and don't have any GPX files, just so they could test out what this is. But I realize I'm a back-end data engineer. I'm not the best when it comes to front-end or thinking about UX or design. So I came across this website, Design Patterns for Effective Maps UX. The guy actually has a book, and there's some really nice pages which talk about different ways to design your map applications. There's lots of examples there. I can recommend it if you're gonna get into any front-end mapping stuff. Okay, so we're pretty much done. The tool works, and I want to say thanks to the OSM community. So it scales to the whole planet. I have people using my hobby project in many countries. So I see people are using it in China. I saw some people are using it in Iran. I was really surprised about this. This is my friend Justus. He at the moment has the high score of 175 rivers crossed on a single ride. So if anyone wants a challenge, you can be up here. But no, my takeaway at this point is there's something quite magical about the internet. So I built this using open data to answer my own question. I didn't expect in the first place that it would have any interest from elsewhere. I didn't even know what it would look like. But being able to see it being used by people is quite nice, and it's something that was attractive to me about the internet a long time ago, and we have to remember that the internet is actually a good thing. So this is the link if anyone wants to go and try it out. And two more things. So I hope this project, I mean, it's not that serious of a project. It's not like this is going to make the world better. But I hope, if anything, it inspires people to start out on a challenge, not really knowing where it will go. We had a talk yesterday. Jez here decided he was going to map every house in Brighton. I quite like these big challenges. they're cool. We should do more of them. And then another takeaway, do tech things for fun and curiosity and share them with the world. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people also make money out of tech here. It's not a problem, it's good, but not every single project we do has to have a good business plan at the start. You should not, well, whatever. Okay, and then thank you all for listening. And I want to say really a massive thanks to all the people in the open mapping community. So with this project and other ones, I've been really struck by how friendly and welcoming people are throughout my interactions, and whether that's accepting some pull requests or giving me some advice or just saying hello at these like geo meetups. It's a nice thing that we have here, so let's not forget that. And then I say OSM is more than just a database, so thank you all. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
Yeah, thank you for sharing the story. I wonder if you have had some requests to count other types of crossing?
Yes.
Maybe train lines or what?
Yes, so I have had lots of these. For me, I did start a branch with some kind of different, okay, how many monuments have you passed, how many churches? But it gets a little bit fuzzy, let's say. Whereas the river crossings are super defined. You have one line, you go across it. And like I said earlier, a waterway is a waterway. It's not that some mapper somewhere else is going to disagree and then it's going to be a different type. So I was actually happy leaving this without any other features. But I've met, in my cycling, I've met someone who made a website where his cycling club have the exact same thing, but it's about going to within 50 meters of railway stations. And they have a contest to see who can cycle past the most railway stations, so they exist. Is there any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, I have two questions actually, but I just tried it out with some of my own Strava tracks. It was really easy, by the way, to just link your account and then click one of the recordings, try it out. But does it only count waterways with a name? Because I live in the Netherlands, and as you can imagine, there's a bunch of canals everywhere, but they're not all named in OSM. So
Yes, yeah, exactly. It only will tell you if there's a name. The other option was to say, okay, let's count the ones without a name, but then it gets a bit into the OpenStreetMap's data model applied to real life thing. Are these two no-name streams the same stream? Are they connected somewhere, or are they completely different? So no, but maybe it's a nice chance for you to add a name and then you can improve the data.
yeah, find the name something.
Yeah.
And what if you just go back and forth over the same bridge?
Then you will get a really high score. Yeah. No, so that is one of the people in America sent me a message saying that it's broken because of its count in the same stream many times when he went over. Or he was going up like a mountain creek valley thing. And he said, I only crossed this river once. And that my app is broken. And I was like, okay, thank you. But I looked into it, and actually, because of the mountains in the way, the GPX track, it looked like he did cross the river at many points. So then it's more of this, okay, the app is still using GPX data, which is kind of an approximation of where you've been, and there's probably another talk about the problems with GPX data, or when it's inaccurate, like when you're going through tunnels. And also the problems when it comes to mapping waterways, because in some aspects they are dry waterways, like they are not there in the summertime, or maybe they moved a little bit, and then it's a really, okay, it's a harder, it's something which goes a lot deeper, but yeah. Okay, thank you all.